If they knew something, they wouldn't have told us either. The Russian army didn't treat us well. They were very abrupt. They were big, husky guys. They had a bad time themselves, like I said. They were hungry themselves. They were undernourished looking. They had no boots, no clothes. They were very poor soldiers.
So then what did it mean for you to be liberated?
It meant that maybe the war is going to be over soon. We didn't know if the war is over or not. There was nobody to tell us. Then finally, a few days later, we heard, through the village that the war is over, and the German army has completely withdrawn. The Russians are here now.
And when was that?
1940, the end of 44, beginning of 45.
So again, it's winter time?
No, it's springtime again, I think. Yeah, in Dubrovnik.
So what year was it?
I think it was, well, the war was over in 45.
But when were you liberated?
I don't know the exact date.
But what year?
In 1945.
And what time of the year?
Springtime. I believe it was April.
And so then where did you go?
I don't know who actually got us out of there, but I know that my parents spoke to somebody and they got us in touch with an organization and they took us out of Dubrovnik.
What do you remember about that?
They took us out of Dubrovnik on trucks, and they took us to a camp. It was like a transit camp, and from there they shipped us to Italy.
What was the name of the place where they took you?
That I don't recall. I had no idea where it was.
How many people were there?
Oh, they brought people from everywhere. They just...
Approximately how many people?
Not that many were in that area. Like I said, unfortunately, in 1945, most of the Jews were killed off in Poland. There were not that many people left in Yugoslavia, not that many Jews. So maybe 100 people, at the most.
And who took you on the trucks?
I think the partisans were helping out, putting us on those trucks at the time.
Oh, who were the drivers? Where were they from?
They just army trucks.
Which army?
The soldiers.
Which army?
There were some British, mostly British, and Russians.
And they took you where?
They took us to a camp. They took us to Italy, to a camp. Well, it wasn't a camp actually. It was a village called Santa Maria di Bagna. And what they did over there, they had no camps in that particular village, no army camps. What they did is they took the summer homes away from the peasants. They occupied those summer homes, and they said to them, these are refugees, and you can't use your homes right now. These people have no place where to go. We have to place them in your homes. You have other homes in the city. It was like a summer village. And these people have to stay here. You have no access to your home right now. You can work in the yard. You can come and work your grounds. Where we stayed, the man was growing grapes. He had a grape yard, and he would come on his horse and buggy, his mule and buggy every morning, and he would bring us bread. He would bring us wine. He was very kind. There was an older couple. They had a single daughter who was a seamstress. And she would come and do her sewing under the tree on Sunday. She would sit outside and do her hand sewing. He had two sons who were living up in northern Italy, very educated men, very well-to-do. Occasionally they would come on a vacation, and we felt terrible because they couldn't come into their house. And we would tell them, now the bedroom was outside anyway, in the back. So if you would like to come in and get a drink or something, please, we feel terrible. We are occupying your home. No, don't worry. We're cooking out here. They would make a fire and have they called it campagna. They would have their little dinner Sunday there, and then go back home.
What were their names?
Oh my God. I don't remember their names. I don't
And so
remember.
how-
I could picture them, but I can't remember their names.
So how was it for you then, living in
Oh,
this
it
house?
was great. It was wonderful. It was actually a villa. Now they gave this villa, there were 2 bedrooms, a big hallway, they had beautiful ceramic floors, a little kitchen, the bedroom was out in the back. So there were 5 of us. They put another lady with her daughter with us and a young man. Now in one bedroom were my parents, myself, my sister, my brother, and this young man. In the other bedroom was this lady with her daughter. She was a single woman with her daughter. It was a small little room. And that's how we lived there for quite a few months.
How was it for you for taking your first bath?
There was no bathroom. My brother-in-law, who I will tell you later in the story how he came about, he came and he rigged up a shower for us in the back. And that's how we took a shower.
And how was
I
it?
mean, we were not used to taking a bath. We didn't know what to do anymore. We just knew how to wash up a little bit. But it was great. We walked into the town, which was a little town. In the center of the town was a schoolhouse, and we got to meet some of the other refugees who were placed in these other villas. And my father right away looked for some work. So rations were coming in from the United States. They were sending flour, sugar, coffee. And my father went to work there,
Doing what?
distributing to the people the food. And he would get some food for it and bring it home. And my mother was so happy because these people had some pots and pans in the villa, and she was able to make some meals for us.
What do you remember the most about your first meal, first true meal?
Regaining my taste buds again, feeling how it feels to have food, solid food, because we really didn't have any solid food. One story I skipped, I don't know if I can go back to it. While we were in Yugoslavia in one of these villages, I had an appendix attack. Here we are in the woods. I skipped that completely. Snow is falling, snow is high. My brother puts me on his shoulders and finds out where the nearest hospital is and takes me there. And my mother came along. My father stayed back with my sister. Took me into the hospital. They said they have no room. Here I am in terrible pain. They were very angry why we came. Nurses were very nasty and said to my brother and my mother, "You have to leave now. You have to leave her here, you have to leave." So they went back to the village, which was miles and miles walking back in the snow. They took me, they stuck me in a bed with another person, an older woman, at the foot of the bed, gave me a cold water bottle, an ice bag, and gave me a pill, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up the next morning, my pain was better. So they said, all right, they're going to keep me there for the day and see how I'm doing. And I was getting better, and my brother and my father and mother came back to look how I'm doing. And they said, well, she can go back. She can leave the hospital. We have no room for her anyway. What they said, it was an appendix attack. What it was, I don't know. They said that's what it was, and obviously my appendix didn't burst, and I was back again with my family.
How old were you then?
I was 8.
How was it for you when they left you there?
I cried a lot. I said, I'm never going to see my parents, my family again. I'm just here, and what are they going to do to me? And I was in such pain. So I forgot to put this little story in. Well, going back to our other story, once we were liberated.
Just tell me who the nurses were.
It was a young nurse, and she was pretty nasty. She just mishandled me.
What nationality was she?
Yugoslavian.
When you say she mishandled you,
She grabbed me, and she pulled me, and she squeezed me, and she threw me into that bed at the foot of the bed with this lady, and here I am so scared. But that was part of the story.
And going back to the villa now, I had asked you what you remember about your first meal.
Yeah, my first meal. Well, I don't remember what it was. It probably was pasta and tomato sauce, and it tasted real good.
How was it for you having a full stomach?
No, it felt wonderful.
What nightmares did you start having at that time?
Lots of them, actually, all of us,
Can you
the
tell
whole
me?
group.
Tell me some of your...
Again, being bombed, laying in a ditch, running. It was just a continuous thing for years. Those nightmares kept coming back. It's something that you can't erase. It's there, and your subconscious brings it back, I guess.
Moving ahead a little bit, what nightmares do you still have today?
About the war? None. I completely erased that. That's why I don't remember a lot of things. Which we made up our mind when we came to the United States. This is over. We survived. We are going to learn how to speak English. We are not going to live in the past. This is finished. Our life is beginning. The one mistake I feel I made is not teaching my children.
Let's go back before we talk about
Okay.
that. So now you're in Santa Maria de Bagna.
Right. And we are wonderful. We are liberated. We are great. We are in this villa. And of course, we are getting bigger. We are growing. My sister was 17. And one day, an army truck pulls up to the driveway. Big army truck.
Which army?
The British Army. And we thought, oh my God, now they're coming to get us. What are they going to do with us now? Out comes a soldier, and my mother took one look at him, and he happened to be my brother's friend from Austria, who worked with him in the shoe store when he was 14. And they're hugging each other and kissing each other, and I'm standing there, and I don't know what to make of this. And he came in and he told us the story that he went during the war to Israel with his brother, joined the army, and got transferred into a platoon that was the British Army and was sent to Italy to liberate people. And when he came to Italy, there was a big book of survivors, people that would write in that they survived. And we did too. We put our names in, hoping that somebody would find us. And he did look at our name, and he saw Alfred Weiss, which is my brother's name. And he saw the rest of our names, and he says, oh my God, this is my friend. And he asked...
What was his name?
Leopold. And he asked where we are located, and here he is with his army truck, full of food, blankets. You name it, he had it. I think he emptied out all the rations that they had from the army, and he brought it with his truck, thinking we are starving, which was great. And he came to visit every once in a while, and of course there's this young pretty girl, my sister, and they fell in love, and he kept coming and, you know, dating, if you want to call it dating, taking her out, and they got engaged. My mother even had all this food. She made a little party, invited some of the people that we got friendly with, and made them an engagement party.
His whole name again?
Leo Ries. They decided to get married. And in 1946, they went to Rome. My brother went with them because my mother had a very bad arthritis in her arm. She couldn't move at the time. And she said, well, to my brother, you're the oldest, you take her and make sure everything goes well. They got to Rome, and for some reason they met up with a countess who had a beautiful wedding gown, happened to just have a wedding gown, gave it to my sister, it fit her, the veil and everything, and they got married by a army chaplain in Rome. In the synagogue.
And where were you at the time?
We were still in Santa Maria di Bagna.
When you said that you signed the book hoping to find others who survived, who were you hoping to find?
Some of my uncles, aunts, we were still hoping that my grandmother was alive, maybe some of the relatives in Poland. like I said, my mother had a big family. There were 9 children. There were husbands and wives. There were children, their children. There were so many cousins. Didn't find anybody. They were all killed.
Approximately how many family members do you believe you lost during the war?
I would say about 40. Between aunts and uncles and cousins and their children. It was a big family in Poland. My mother's my mother's 2 brothers lived in Vienna. My mother's one brother was taken to Buchenwald.
Their names?
Emil Maurer. He was taken to Buchenwald at the same time my father was taken to Dachau. He also, after 18 months, was released. His wife managed to get him out, and him and his family, he had very good connections. He was a big attorney in Austria. He somehow rather got to England with his family and stayed there during the whole war. After the war, he came back and picked up his practice again, and also worked for the Jewish Kultusgemeinde in Austria. Her other brother was married to a Catholic woman. They lived in the outskirts of Vienna, and nobody even knew that he was Jewish. So he survived, but he died of natural causes after. My father's brother was killed in the concentration camp, Ludwig Weiss.
In which camp?
I have no idea where he was taken to, but I know he was taken to Poland. Some of the people later told us that he was taken to Poland. My father's one sister was also married to a Catholic man who was a musician, and she survived. Nobody bothered her. I don't think that they knew she was Jewish, and her husband kept her very safe, and she survived. And she later, matter of fact, she visited us once in the United States, and then when she went back, her name was Emma.
Last name?
And I don't remember their last name. She came to visit us once.
And so then, after your sister got married, how long did you stay in Santa Maria de Bagna?
We stayed another few months. My sister went along with her husband, lived in the army camps with him. They lived near Naples. They were stationed there. We were told, now finally these people need their homes back, we have to leave. And they took us to Balese, which was an army camp. Now that was not a nice camp. There were little barracks made out of metal with a dirt floor. The cots were there from the soldiers. That's what we had to sleep on. And really, there was one main kitchen where we would go and stand in line and get our food.
Who was in charge of that camp?
I think it was the British at the time that they came in. It was actually organizations that came in. They were sent from the United States. It was the UNRWA and the URO. There were different organizations that took care of all the refugees.
And how many children were there at Palazzo?
In Palese, there were not that many children. Not too many children survived. I think I was the one, and then my husband's cousins were the same age as I. It was a set of twins who were in Auschwitz and survived. They were treated by Dr. Mengele. They were experimenting on them, and they survived.
And what contact did you have with these twins?
Well, I'll tell you the story how we got to know them. While we were in Santa Maria, my brother, who was of age now, met this girl. Her name was Shari Berkovic, and he fell in love with her. And she had a sister and a set of 2 sisters there and a set of twins. They all survived the Auschwitz concentration camps.
What contact did you have with the twins?
Well, they were my friends.
And what did they tell you about the experiments?
They were shot with needles every day. They were strapped onto cots, and they did experiments on them with their eyes, with their teeth, with all different kinds of experiments. They gave them injections, they blew up, all kinds of different torture that they had.
And as far as you could tell by your contact with them, what residual effects did they have from the experiments?
I think we all had residual effects. Their parents were killed in concentration camps.
As far as the experiments were concerned, what residual effects could you see yourself?
I saw that they were sick in later life. They had a lot of problems being treated like that. They were not well.
As far as what?
They got all kinds of sicknesses. Well, my brother eventually married this girl, Shari. She had problems with her lungs.
Was Shari one of the twins?
No, Shari was an older sister.
I'm specifically interested in the twins.
The twins were just my friends, and later they were related to me.
Okay. I'm specifically interested in the residual effects of the experiments on them. What did you notice in later life that was a direct result of the experiments?
Well, the boy was a boy and a girl. He got very bad back problems. He had neck problems. In later life, he opened up his own business and he had to give it up. He couldn't keep up with it. He's still not a well person. His sister, her name was Faggy at the time. She changed it, she Americanized. She was pretty good. She was not sick.
The boy's name was what?
His name was Putju, they called him at the time. Now he calls himself Mark. His name is Mark Berkowitz.
And where does he live?
He lives in New City, New York.
And so then, when you were in this Palazzo?
Palese.
What opportunity did you have to further your education?
Okay, Palese, I went again to school. Again, I wanted to learn how to speak Italian real well. By that time, I was speaking the language pretty well, and my parents found a school, which was a private school, which we somehow or other got a little bit of money by my father working and my mother doing some sewing, and it was a private school, and I went to that school. And I was doing real well. I got very good report cards. I got excellent report cards, which I was proud of myself for being such a kid who didn't have an education.
Approximately what grade level were you in at that time?
I was about 11, 12, and I was keeping up with their level of junior high.
And what was the general demeanor, the feeling of the people who were in this camp with you?
Everybody was upbeat. Everybody was so happy to be alive. Everybody just wanted to try and find either a way to go to Israel or a way to come to the United States, trying to get in touch with different family members. How my mother recalled some of these names of her family here, I guess she was still a young woman, her memory was good. She knew all the names. She got in touch with an organization and they found addresses for us. And we wrote to them that we are here, we are safe, we survived. In Palese we stayed, it was also, the camp itself was not pretty, but then we had the ocean nearby, which was wonderful. We went swimming and it was great. Like I said, my father kept busy earning a little bit, money and stuff. From there they decided now this camp has to be evacuated. We have to tear down these barracks and give the people back their property. So here we go again. We pack up again our little belongings and we are shipped to a camp called Barletta, which was an army camp also, but they were big barracks made out of stone, big barracks, big rooms. Big long rooms with a lot of beds, double-decker beds for the soldiers. Okay? So now we're trying to divide up to make it a little bit more private. So everybody had these gray army blankets. So we would pull a rope with clothespins and make our little cubicles, divide up. So, I mean, there are girls and women and men, and we're all together. So after a while, for the nighttime, we would put these blankets up and take them down daytime.
And since you knew the war was over, why did you think you were going again and running from place to place?
Well, we had no place to go. We couldn't go back to Austria. There was nothing for us there. My parents didn't want to know about Austria.
What
said-
did they tell you about the war at that time? What did you know about what had happened?
Well, I knew everything that had happened. I was old enough to realize at the time what had happened.
How did the stories affect you?
I think I was very happy because I was liberated. I wasn't dwelling on it. I just looked ahead. My parents kept saying, we are liberated, we are starting a new life, don't live in the past. Let's go just forward.
We're going to change tapes.